It's the time of year where crafting is so much fun. We can get a little bit festive and decorate our house. And I love customizing Christmas ornaments. One, it's a great look. It's handmade, but also they make quick and easy gifts. Think teachers' gifts, coworkers' gifts, neighbors' gifts, whatever you want to gift it to. So for this pattern online on my blog, and what we're going to be showing in the video today, we're going to be working with a more traditional size of a rounded ornament. This is 3.15 inches. Sometimes they come a little bit smaller, but today on camera, we're going to be making an ornament for this. Now, in the ad-free PDF that you'll find on Etsy and Ravelry, I'm going to include stitch counts for these unique ornaments. But if you go to your store, you're going to find that there are lots of different styles of ornaments. I mean, how cool is a square one? That's so much fun. So I've also included in the ad-free PDF a guide on how to use any weight of yarn and any ornament to create this. It's just some easy adjusting. I haven't found one it does not work on yet, and I've been searching for different varieties. So if you're interested in that VIP paid pattern on Etsy or Ravelry, it's going to include those as well. Today you will need a 4.5 millimeter hook for this pattern. I use the dots hooks from We Crochet. You'll want a yarn needle to weave in those ends, scissors to cut them, and a stitch marker is helpful to mark the ends of your rows. I will be using the Color Theory yarn today. This is from Lion brand. It's an acrylic and I like these two colors, but they didn't really have a red I liked in this colorway. It's more orange. So I included the Bravo worsted for the red. These are so similar, they gauge so similar that you can use these, either one of these yarns for this pattern, which also means because we're doing an ornament, this is not sized, you can raid your stash and see what yarn you have that might work. These are a little bit on the lighter side of worsted, I would say, compared to other yarns in the box stores, but not by much at all. And where it's not a sized item, you'll find that a lot of things in your stash can work as well. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to make this rounded ornament on camera together today. Now for the ornament we're making together today, once again, this is 3.15 inches in height. It can be found at most box stores. This is actually just a regular ornament. I know they sell the clear plastic ornaments, but this is just a box I found of white ornaments from a big box store that works great. And oftentimes you'll find this size at most of your average stores. So we're going to start by chaining 20. I'm using the Caper color, so that green color in the Color Theory yarn, and I'm going to chain 21. So placing a slip knot onto your hook, leaving a little bit of a tail because we will need this tail possibly later to weave in some seaming, but we're going to go ahead and chain 21. Now after chaining 21, we're going to be working a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So the last chain is a turning chain. It does not count as a stitch. And we're going to start by doing a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Now, if you've never done this stitch pattern before, it is a brilliant idea to go ahead and throw a stitch marker into the first stitch of the row. It just helps to make sure we keep the right stitch count. So then we are going to single crochet into the next chain. And yes, I am working into those bottom humps underneath those V's. I kind of like the look of starting rows that way a little bit better. And then we're going to single crochet all the way across. So we're going to single crochet all these chains. And at the end of row 1, we will have a total of 20 single crochet stitches. Now after single crocheting in each stitch across, we are going to go ahead and turn our work and chain 1. And once again, this chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. And next we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for each stitch across. Once again, if you want to mark the first stitch of that row, please do so. So we're going to single crochet in the back loop only. Now when it comes to the back loop, if you've never worked them before, when you look at the top of your stitches, they look like V's that run across here. We normally would work underneath both of those strands of that V, but we're not going to be working this front loop. We're going to skip that front loop and only work this back loop for the entire row across. So we're just working through that back loop all the way across. And that will be for row 2. Now after working row 2, we are going to turn our work for row 3 and chain 1. we are going to be single crocheting in the first 2 stitches in the back loop only. And now we're going to be working our puff stitch repeat until we get to the last 2 stitches of this row. And here's how it's going to go. We are going to skip the next stitch and then single crochet into the next. And then we're going to go back to that skip stitch and yarn over, insert your hook into that skip stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, insert into that same skip stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. You will now have 5 loops on your hook. We will yarn over and pull through 4 of those loops on our hook, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 to complete that puff stitch. So let's do that together again. We'll skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next. And then working back to that skip stitch, we will yarn over, insert into that skip stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And remember to pull this up to the height of the first loop on your hook. You want it to have a little bit more length. Yarn over, insert into the same skip stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 4 loops on the hook, then yarn over and pull through the last 2 to complete that stitch. And that's our puff stitch repeat that we will work all the way across until the last 2 stitches of this row. So once again, that is skipping a stitch, single crocheting in the next, working back into that skip stitch, doing that modified puff stitch, and then repeating. And now that we worked the last 2 stitches of this row, we are going to single crochet into the last 2 stitches in the back loop only. And then we're going to turn our work. Now for row 4, this is a repeat of row 3. So we're going to chain 1, single crochet in the back loop only for the very first 2 stitches of the row. And now we're going to do our puff stitch repeat until we get to the last 2 stitches of the row. So we will skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next, puff stitch into the skip stitch, and then repeat that all the way across until we get to the last 2 stitches of this row. And this is where we start to see that wheat look start to happen when it comes to this cute pattern. I love using the stitch. I've used it on several other patterns and I have several more to come. So if you're enjoying the stitch, there's more coming with this because I am addicted to it and it's so pretty and it's quite simple. So we're going to repeat that puff stitch repeat until we get to the end of row 4. The last 2 stitches we will work in the back loop only, single crocheting them. So I've gone ahead and done another 4-row repeat so you can see where we are headed. But when it comes to doing repeats, we're repeating everything we've already done in a 4-row repeat. So the 4-row repeat is to do 2 rows of single crochet in the back loop only, which we did that when we first started. So I've done that again here. So this is single crochet in the back loop only. And then we do 2 rows of that puff stitch. So it's a 4-row repeat, but then we're really honestly only using skills from 2 of those rows because they're just repeating each other. So it's a really nice, simple repeat for this ornament. Now for this size of ornament, we will be doing a total of 32 rows of that 4-row repeat. We'll be ending on a puff stitch row, and this is where we can go ahead and we can put this around the ornament. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about how to seam this. Now our next steps are to do some seaming, and we're going to have the right side facing us and then fold the edges together. So now the wrong side is facing out, and that is what we want to do. We are going to chain 1 and then holding these together, we are going to go through the very first stitch of the row closest to us, and then the first stitch from the very first row that we did. And then we are going to yarn over and slip stitch those together. We will be doing this for all 20 stitches across, and you'll do this for no matter what size that you make. We're just going to slip stitch the first stitch of the row that we're currently working, and then the stitch from the row that we first worked, yarn over and slip stitch together. So just working through the stitch on each side all the way down. And once you have worked all those stitches, we are going to be fastening off. But before you grab those scissors, I want to tell you to fasten off a little bit longer than we normally would, and here's why. We already have a strand on this one edge that we started with to seam the top of this. Now, we can either fasten off, have another end to weave in, reattach down here, have more ends to weave in, or we can fasten off with a pretty long strand, grab our yarn needle, and we are going to weave it to the other side of this ornament. So we're just going to weave through to the other side. That way it's in the right position and we don't have to have as many ends to weave in. So now I'm simply going to work along that seam that we just created, those slip stitches. I'm just grabbing one strand here and there, and I'm just going to simply move this without scrunching it to the other side so that it's set up and I have a strand on each side of the ornament. I'm just cutting out a little bit of work here. Now that we have done that, it is time to go ahead and flip our fabric to the right side out. So we have a strand at the top. We're going to pull that strand to the bottom, and then we'll grab our ornament and we're going to place this inside of this sleeve, making sure that it's all looking good. Now we can go ahead and finish seaming this. Now, since my yarn needle is still on this strand, I'm going to start at the top of this, and I am going to weave through every point around the top. So every 2 rows, kind of like the center between every 2 rows, we are going to weave our yarn needle through that fabric, and we'll weave through every 2 rows all the way around. So now that we've gone all the way around, we're simply going to take that tail end and gently pull it closed until it is all the way around the top of that. And then you'll want to weave around again. The reason why we want it to be extra secure. So we want to make sure that we're really weaving in those ends. So I'll go around again, pull a little bit more to make it a little bit more tighter as I go, because it'll kind of loosen up. And we want to make sure we're keeping it tight around the top part of that ornament. So I'm going to go around, and then I'll go around in the opposite direction and weave in my end here and there to make sure that this is absolutely secure on the top of the ornament. Now that I've kind of gone around again, it's not coming apart anymore. It's really stuck. So now I'll go back in the opposite direction, and then I'll even weave my yarn tail end a little bit down the side of it, just to make sure for good measure that we have got this completely secured. And now I've placed my yarn needle on the bottom part of this, and I'm going to do the exact same steps. So we're just going to be looping through a strand of yarn that's kind of at the point of every 2 rows of this, and we're going to be working all the way across and then pulling it tight. And now that we've gone all the way around, same thing, we are simply just going to pull that tight, grab the yarn needle, go through it again, get it super tight so that you can close that gap as much as possible. It helps to just keep kind of tugging as you go around and holding it tightly, and that way that hole virtually will disappear, and then weave in that end, extra secure it, and we are done with this part of the ornament. And just like that, we have a gorgeous textured snowy wheat stitch ornament. You can't even tell where that seam is. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can do this in so many different colors. You can change colors. I've seen some people do one color for the wheat style stitch and another color for that single crochet in the back loop only, because you can change colors easily every 2 rows without having a ton of ends to weave in. And then lastly, I want to talk about a little bit of an accessory if you are giving this with a gift that kind of finishes it off a little bit. Now, I love combining different mediums when it comes to finishing off a project. So I have a little bit of this twine here. It's just your generic craft twine, and I've cut a piece, and I'm going to go ahead and through the top of this ornament, I'm going to weave it through. It will still have enough space in there to add a hook to add it to the tree, or you can even use this and not pull it so tight, and you can use this for hanging the ornament. So you can create a way to hang the ornament by doing this. So if you just want this to hang off of it and you're going to use something else, you can go ahead and pull those strands through and then pull it tight. And that will leave us a strand to decorate. If you want this to be the strand that this is going to hang from, so you've got a built-in way to hang it without needing to buy any of those hooks, you're just going to wrap around and tie a knot. And this way, if you are giving it as a gift, it's easy to attach to something like a wine bottle, or even with a card, you can even tape this to the top of a gift to keep it in place. So this is a great way to add that finishing touch. Now at this point, you can be done and you can cut this twine or tie a cute little rope, braid it, whatever you want to do. But if you want to, you can add some beads onto the end, which is what I want to do. But it is extremely hard on this frayed edge to place beads on there. Near impossible, I swear. So I'm going to string onto a sewing needle and then go around the twine that I want the bead on and back down through the bead. And that way I'm using this thread that has grabbed onto this twine, and this way I can actually pull it onto that bead. And then I'll just let that sit, and now I want to do that again to the other side. So I'm going to go through that bead, around that twine, back down that bead, grab all those strands of thread. Ooh, flying around here. And then we're just going to pull that second one through the bead as well. And that's just an easier way without fighting that twine to get those beads on there. So I'm going to slide this bead all the way to the top. Then I'm going to tie a knot to secure in place. You don't have to. You can always do more beads. But I like to do knots in between them. And then I'm going to do 2 more on here in the same way. And now that I've got a couple more on, and you can do this however you want. You don't have to do these finishing details. You could do more beads, less beads, whatever looks nice. I just kind of like the little bit of the extra rustic touch. Sometimes I even unwind the ends here to make it look a little bit softer of a finish. A little bit frayed. I kind of like that. And then this has a little bit of an extra touch to hang on the tree as a gorgeous ornament. Now there are lots of different ornaments you can do this with, but I will tell you all the steps are the same. Once you have the size of fabric that you need, you'll simply be slip stitching those edges together and putting the ornament inside and seaming the top and the bottom, and it works really, really well. The nice thing with yarn is obviously very flexible, so it works well shaping around different shapes. So I just want to show you once again, once I have this seamed together, I'm just going to pop that inside, and you can see how easily it's going to just seam around the top, seam around the bottom, and it's gorgeous. And now we have a gorgeous ornament to put on our tree or a gift bag or anything like that. And as you can see, we have lots of different shapes and sizes here. This is a very versatile pattern. If you would like to purchase the ad-free PDF on my Etsy or Ravelry shop, it also includes a guide to use any weight of yarn. So you could go super bulky, you could go fingering weight, and that guide is for any shape as well. I don't really see a shape or a yarn that wouldn't work for trying out for this pattern. It's just a lot of fun and really, really flexible in the way that it is constructed. I really hope you've enjoyed this holiday decor and you can put this in your home and enjoy it all season long. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back for more fun projects soon.